this is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? This is going to be a short video mostly about the Theology Book Club and our final quarter of the year read. So in October, November, and December, we are going to be reading the book of Isaiah. There you go. And this is an ecumenical read, so we're all going to read Isaiah, but you can use your own, if you're evangelical or whatever, you can use your own commentary or Bible study and read along. And what we're going to do, and I meant to look at the calendar before I sat down and started this, but what we're going to do is we're going to read 6 chapters a week for 11 weeks. So when I organize it in the Discord group, I'll maybe explain it better than I'm explaining it now. And I will put the Discord group link in the discussion box below. It expires after some unknown time, after a few weeks. So if you are interested in this, of course, this is starting October 1st, you should definitely go over to Discord and, click on the invite and introduce yourself, and then there will be a discussion thread about Isaiah. I have to set that up first. But anyway, that is what we're doing. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I think it will be really interesting. There's different, people can organize it however they want. What I plan to do, because next week my church is starting up again, its church history study, which takes it takes a few hours to prepare for that. And then we meet on Tuesday nights via Zoom. So what I'm going to do is probably start my study of church history on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then those are my chickens. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I will read 2 chapters a morning in Isaiah. So there's 66 chapters. We're doing 6 a week for 11 weeks. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. And you can do it any way you want. I'm doing it a particular way where I'm going to use 2 different studies, this one, or a commentary, and this one. And then I'm going to write out my own the summary and my own thoughts on it in this notebook. So that's how I'm going to do it. You can do it any way you want. You can just read it, whatever. And then what I hope to do is start commenting on Saturday. On those 6 books, I'm going to comment on Saturday. And then, the discussion will continue. So, through the week. So that is the study of Isaiah. Please join us. Like I said, I'll put the link below. And I think it'll be a good thing. So I want to show off something. Here we go. Tomatoes. Yes, tomatoes. I have had such a bumper crop of tomatoes this year. The last couple of years, my tomato growing was not good. So I overcorrected, I think, and I planted way too many tomato plants, and I have lots and lots of tomatoes now. So I wish I could reach through the screen and give you some of my tomatoes, but yeah, I have to figure out what to do with these. I'm not a canner. I always wanted to be a canner, but I just have a phobia about botulism. I just do. It's irrational. I acknowledge it. And so what I've been doing is dehydrating and freezing and then eating a lot of fresh tomatoes and giving some away. So that's how I've been dealing with this, but a lot of them are going bad too. We've had, look, you can see that. I don't know what that is. Maybe if you're a better tomato farmer than I am, you know what that is, but some of them are really going bad. I'm getting some to the chickens and some are just going into the compost heap. So that's the way it is. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the terrible things that are going on in our country right now. I probably don't need to specify. I'm making this video on September 17th. Is it the 17th today? It's so acrimonious out there in the political world. And then, it's at this low roar, and then something happens, there's a flashpoint, and everything explodes again. And we've had this terrible assassination. And I personally didn't follow Charlie Kirk. I knew of him, I could put his face with his name. I knew he had something to do with Turning Point USA. I didn't know he was the founder. And I'd seen some videos of his, and some I liked, and some I, some I agreed with him, and some I really didn't agree with him. But I really didn't follow him because, to tell you the truth, sorry about the plane, I didn't like the whole mode of operation where you go to college campuses and you debate, 18, 19-year-olds. And I mean, I think if he did it, I've watched more of him since he's been assassinated. So I think maybe I was unfair. It was just my impression of him. Because I don't like these gotcha things, and that's what would happen. You'd be having these debates, sorry about the crows, and then they would go online and they'd go viral, and it just always seemed like it was there to make the college student look stupid. And I just I didn't like that approach. I think he was actually having more genuine dialogue with them than I gave him credit for. But anyway, because of that, I just didn't follow him. So, but I get very, very disheartened and discouraged over all the acrimony and the hatefulness, and just, it's so vile out there. And, I think we're all a little bit responsible, because we have just created this toxic atmosphere and we tolerate it. And I think we get it's a little gleeful. We get those little dopamine hits when we say something cutting to the other side, We're so tribal in our ideology, and it's so unhealthy, and it's destabilizing our country. It's hurting our country. It's hurting our children. So if you want an alternative, if you want to pull your head out of the echo chambers and follow some people who have kind of fresh thinking and are more innovative and are really dedicated to depolarizing, I have 4 organizations that I like to turn to. I've had some kind of personal experience or connection with all 4. So, and I will link them. I won't link them below. I'm going to just say their names and you can Google them. Because once before I linked to something and the link went bad, and then YouTube came and said that if I did that again, they were going to do something terrible to my channel. I don't know what it was, suspend me or something. And I was like, oh. So I try not to link to organizations, but I'll just put the names. So the first one is called Braver Angels. This is an organization that has grown by leaps and bounds. I think they have chapters all over the country now. It started off just as Trump's first administration, or when his first campaign maybe. And what it does is it applies the principles used in marriage counseling to get people who think they have irreconcilable differences to actually talk to each other, to have some sort of constructive dialogue with each other. And they applied that to progressives and conservatives. And it's a really, really good thing. They really are amazing. It's a mostly volunteer organization. I don't know about the top people who are running things, but they just got a new CEO. The guy who founded it just retired, and they have a new CEO. I forget his name. And so I have been involved in a few things of theirs. The first thing I did was I went to a workshop, which was given at our public library in their meeting room. And what it does is, their workshop does is it teaches you the skill set for having an actual dialogue with somebody you disagree with. And the mindset, the skill set and the mindset. And that's what they did. And it was amazing. At the end of the workshop, it was morning into late afternoon. People were in tears because they had been so, just trapped in this acrimony, and they didn't know. I think this was right around when it was like Thanksgiving. The newspapers were saying, what should you do when, with your crazy uncle who supports Trump? And, people don't want to go home for Thanksgiving or whatever. So, people were actually in tears because they had figured out a different way to approach things. And it really, really helpful. So they give those workshops all over the country. Then the other thing I went to was, I think it was a pilot program for a particular style of debate, a particular structure of how to debate issues. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, it was based on research done by Georgetown University in conflict resolution. And I remember it was crowded. First of all, I was shocked at how many people were at this debate. It was just in like a hall at a local church, and they invited both sides to come, and people were volunteered to present. And the topic was, should we build the wall? And I remember going in, and there was so much tension and nervousness. And they started off, and the way it was structured, and I wish I could remember more how it was structured, but there were like tiers of questions. I can't remember how it worked, but we went from having this tension and this nervousness to, at the end of the hour, or however long it was, people were having meaningful discussions. They had found common ground. They had found the points where they really differed, but they were talking about them in this meaningful way. It was just almost like miraculous. So if you want to pull your heads out of the echo chambers and go do something constructive, Braver Angels is a great organization. Like I said, they have chapters all over. They have a great website, and I highly, highly recommend them. Then the other, another organization is, and I've talked about this on this BookTube channel, because in the Theology Book Club, we read a book that the leader of this organization wrote, or three leaders, and I wish I had it. I don't have it with me, but it's called Compassion and Conviction. The Braver Angels is from a secular. It's secular. Anybody can be in. This one, which is called the AND campaign, is definitely coming from a Christian worldview. It comes out of the Black American Baptist tradition, and it's also, it tries to be nonpartisan. I think the people who run it are maybe slightly center left, but they try so hard to be objective, and they're good at it. And they critique their own side, and they will, give credit where credit's due on the other side. They're not interested in being adversarial. What they want to do is bring biblical values to bear on Christian interaction with the political world that we live in. So that's what they do, and they have a podcast that's really thought-provoking. I really enjoy it. I don't agree with everything 100%, and I think that they're stronger on domestic issues rather than foreign. But it's a really, really good resource. If you're a Christian and you're sort of, it takes you out of the black and white thinking. And it's a really good resource. I really, really enjoy listening to Justin Giboney. He's the main guy, I think, in the organization. And they have a really good website, and so does Braver Angels. They have good websites. And then the third thing is the National Constitution Center. I believe that's the right name. It's up in Philadelphia, and I have a relative who works for them. But what they try to be nonpartisan too. They're just interested in exploring the Constitution, the history around it, the philosophy. They have all kinds of they interview all kinds of people. They have justices of the Supreme Court. They just had Amy, I always forget her name, Amy Coney Barrett, something. But they have people from all stripes, and they have Ken Burns, because studying the history of America, and they just get everybody's perspective. But it's not acrimonious. It's more just educational and nonpartisan. So, and I feel like if we don't go to the sides that are really, really partisan and very much presenting only their bias interpreting everything through this filter of very strong bias. It's nice and refreshing to hear something more objective and more nonpartisan, but just trying to get at the facts and the true history. And so it's refreshing, and I feel like it empowers me because I feel like I'm getting information from people who don't have an agenda. And so I trust it more, and then I feel like I'm more discerning when I look at the other things going on. When I look at each side, I can be more discerning about what they've got right and what they've got wrong. And so that's so how many have I said so far? Braver Angels, the AND campaign, the National Constitution Center, I believe that's the name. And then the last one is a third party that I really like. I vote for them in presidential elections, 9 out of 10. It's called the American Solidarity Party. It's based in the tradition of Christian democratic parties that started to arise in Europe, I think at the end of the 1800s, maybe. And it's a consistent life ethic party. So, which I like consistency. I don't think either side is very consistent. So I like that they are consistent, and I like that they're consistent life. So it's a party that's dedicated to human flourishing, and it takes the best from both sides of the ideological spectrum, and it has very consistent principles that are applied to every policy issue that you might want to be talking about in politics today. So they have a very good website. They what I tend to do, just to say a little bit about myself, I don't want to talk too long, but I was raised Democrat. We were very pro-labor. Both sides of my family were very active in labor unions, so that's how I grew up, and always saw myself as a Democrat. But I started to disaffiliate many years ago. I no longer feel any attachment whatsoever to the Democratic Party, but I never became a Republican either. And so I call myself independent, but usually if you're independent, it either means you're libertarian or you're like the Green Party, and I wasn't either of those at all. And when I found the American Solidarity Party, I found a party that I could really get behind. I don't think they're that great. I don't agree with everything. I think they're a little bit weak on economics, but everything else I really like. And if you go to their website, they really have a detailed platform. It's all volunteer, and they're all policy wonks. So they really think this stuff through. So the American Solidarity Party, that would be that's my like protest vote in presidential elections. And then when it comes to state and local, I will just vote for either party, whoever. It depends on the person running and the issues involved and the circumstances. And sometimes you get those long ballots where there's different people to vote for or bonds to, and I'll just vote on the things I feel like I'm capable of making an intelligent decision on. So sometimes I will skip voting for somebody because I just don't know enough about them. But that's my take. Anyway, I better be quiet because this is longer than I thought it would be. So please join us in reading the book of Isaiah, and I hope those organizations might help you if you're feeling a little despairing about the state of the country. So, all right, take care and happy reading. Bye.